Gas prices are hovering near the $3 mark, and fears today those prices will continue to go up in the wake of BP's shutdown of its Alaskan pipeline. Good evening from WYMT Mountain News. I'm Neil Middleton. Americans are spending an average of 68 cents more per gallon than we were just 1 year ago. Reducing our dependence on foreign oil is vital to this country's economic and military strength. One state lawmaker says the U.S. is on the brink of an unprecedented transportation liquid fuels crisis, one which could result in America losing its foothold as the world's superpower. As national leaders look for ways to make America energy independent, the solution may lie in the coal-rich fields of Kentucky. That's coming up on Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition.
Join us for Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition, Mondays at 7 p.m. on WYMT, sponsored in part by the First National Bank of Jackson, member FDIC, and Hazard Mayor Bill Gorman and the City Commissioner. Come home to the mountains.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight. Our guest tonight is House Majority Floor Leader Rocky Adkins. Rocky, good to have you here
Neil,
today.
It's good to be here. I'm honored to be with you here on the show tonight.
Well, those were your words we talked about in the opening, brink of an unprecedented crisis. Those are strong words.
Well, they are, but if you look at the predicament really that we're in this country because of our dependence on foreign oil, I think it's time that we move forward with doing something about that. And I think the states are going to have to play a very active role in that. And at the Southern Legislative Conference, I spoke to the southern states about what I think we need to do as different states to show Congress that something does need to be done, that we're ready to support that effort. That's the reason I sponsored House Bill 299. I do believe we must reduce our dependence on foreign oil. Today in this country, we import over 62% of our oil into this country from foreign countries. And some of those countries, as you know, Neil, are unfriendly countries. They're very unstable countries. And we also send $1 billion a day, almost $1 billion a day of hard-earned tax dollars out of this country to buy that foreign oil. I believe that we must take other actions, and I believe we can. We have the technologies in this country right now to take our natural resources along with our technologies and produce our own transportation fuels. I do not think we have an energy crisis, but I do think that we're on the brink of a transportation fuels crisis. We get 15% of our oil every day from Venezuela, a country that Chavez, their president, makes very unfriendly comments. We get much of our oil from the Middle East where it's unstable. And now we have a disruption of oil from a pipeline, BP pipeline out of Alaska. And really, we haven't had a major disruption in the oil flow, and gas prices are still $3 a gallon. So I think it's time for us in this country and us in this state to start using our own technologies and our own natural resources to produce our own transportation fuels in this country, and I believe that can be done.
Well, you talked about House Bill 299. This is known as the Kentucky Energy Security National Leadership Act, and it directs the Kentucky Office of Energy Policy to develop and implement strategies for producing just what you're talking about, transportation fuels. Explain a little bit about how that's going to work and what you all are doing with that right now. Where are we in that process?
The first part of the bill really just explains, as I said, the predicament we're in because of our dependence on foreign oil. And the second part of the bill really talks about the Office of Energy Policy working with our universities who are already doing a lot of the research in this area to develop the technologies to be able to use our own natural resources to produce our own transportation fuels. We asked the Office of Energy Policy to really get active with our universities, then to go to the federal government where the energy bill was passed, where there's billions of dollars there, Neil, for these renewable fuels, and to be able to develop technologies and demonstrate those technologies to be able to produce our own transportation fuels from our own natural resources. If you look at Kentucky, the natural resources we have in this state from coal and also oil shale and also from our farm community, the agricultural products that are produced that produce biomass. We have the natural resources to be the national leaders in this arena, and that's what House Bill 299 is all about. It's to lay out an education of the shape that we're in this country because of our dependence on foreign oil, and we must reduce that dependence. Kentucky needs to be the national leaders. in that arena. So we are hopefully from House Bill 299 moving forward with an aggressive approach to draw down the federal dollars, to work with private enterprise as well, to move forward with these technologies, to do the demonstration of these technologies here in Kentucky. And Neil, I think the economic benefits of that for our state are tremendous.
You talk about being a national leader. Just a few days ago at this taping, Indiana's Governor Mitch Daniels proposed something very similar. So someone's going to step out there on the front. He's talking about even creating power plants there that will burn high sulfur coal, which right now many of the plants we have will not burn it just due to the emissions, and he's looking for some new technology there as well. So someone's going to do this.
Somebody is going to do it, and it ought to be Kentucky. Since we are doing the research right now at our university, since we do have the natural resources in the state to do this, Kentucky ought to be the national leaders. We ought to be the ones who are stepping forward to develop the type of technologies and demonstrate those technologies and then take them to commercial scale. Neil, these technologies have been around for a while. Let's take, for example, the Fischer-Tropsch technology. It's been around since World War II, really. It was developed and invented in Germany, and now South Africa uses this technology today to produce over 30% of its transportation fuels from coal today, and now it's been refined here in this country, and it is a clean technology. Neil, these technologies of Fischer-Tropsch can take coal, biomass, oil shale, and turn these transportation fuels into a higher quality transportation fuel and can be refined from oil. Matter of fact,
you have some with you.
I have some here, and if
that's
the
not
viewers,
white lightning.
That is not white lightning. That is actually transportation fuel that was made from coal. They do this every day at the University of Kentucky. It's a very clean technology. This fuel can be made at almost zero emissions. And to tell you how clean it is, the other prop that I have here with you is the first form that is made from this technology. Actually, before it's turned into this liquid transportation fuel, it is turned into this wax. And this wax is shipped all over the world right now. It is so clean. Matter of fact, if you ate an orange today, or let's say an apple or a pear, this wax is used to coat that.
And that came from coal.
And that came from coal. This is also used, if you chewed chewing gum today, you actually chewed some of this wax is used to make chewing gum. So this could also be stored, Neil, as a strategic fuel reserve, like we do oil today in this form, and then taken and turned into this very clean transportation fuel that is made from coal every day. And I believe that not only is it a way that we in this country can stabilize energy prices by producing our own transportation fuels and not have to depend on imported oils. And you know, we're competing for the same barrel of oil in the way we never have. With the development of China and India and other Asian countries, China is out actively trying to tie up world natural resources, trying to buy American oil companies as we speak, and we're competing for that same barrel of oil in a way we never have. The consumption, just in China, their energy consumption went up 30% last year, and is expected to do that for the next several years. I believe in this country it's not only an economic issue for us to be able to stabilize our energy prices. There is nothing that has more of an effect on our economy, Neil, than the cost of energy. When the cost of energy goes up for industry, small businesses, and people to heat and cool their homes, and also for people to buy gas at the pump, as we well know now, there's nothing that has more of an effect on the economy than the cost of energy or the cost of fuel. Also, Neil, I believe this is essential for us also, national security, homeland security. That's where it's as important as well. I believe it's time for us in this country to get serious about these technologies. I believe it's time for us to get serious about reducing our dependence on this foreign oil. The projections for the consumption of energy is projected to continue to go up. Matter of fact, just the use of electricity is expected to double in the next 25 years in this country, and it's going to continue in the use of fuel. So it's time for us to look at how we can use our resources wiser, how we can use them better, how we can use them cleaner, and how we can control our own destiny in this country.
You know, you mentioned the military, and I believe the military uses several different types of fuel.
Yes, they do.
When they're out in the battlefield. But, you know, we're in Iraq. We have several other issues brewing around the world. You mentioned homeland security.
That's right.
It'd be rather difficult to fight a war or protect the home front if your vehicles won't move.
That's exactly right. And the Department of Defense has put out a request for proposals to actually start testing these very fuels in their tanks and their fighter planes, and to try to get to where they can only use one fuel. As I said, you can actually create or produce a higher quality transportation fuel from coal, biomass, or oil shale than you can from oil.
Now, they're making this at the University of
That's right.
Kentucky, and they're running some of their vehicles on it, aren't
That's
they?
right. They're doing that, and hopefully we can get to the point of where we can use our armed forces, our tanks, our military planes, our ships just on one fuel, and that's what this RFP is all about that the Department of Defense put out. Also, I think it's important to bring out the point about the military. And I think this is very interesting, and I think it really shows and proved a point to me that the single biggest user of foreign oil in the United States, do you know who that is?
It's the military.
It's the U.S. military. And I think that's scary. So I think it's time for us to really get serious about it. I mean, people are being educated every day, Neil, when they pull in
Another
the
country
gas
could
pumps.
cripple us.
Oh, there's no question. You know, think about if you have 400,000 barrels that are being shut off right now from BP coming from Alaska. That's, you know, that's our friendly oil places. But what if another country said, we're not going to ship you any more oil tomorrow? We're sorry. We're going to send it to China, or we're going to send it to India. What if we had another storm, or what if we had something that really affected the flow of oil? You know, prices at the pump have went to nearly $3 a gallon just on the crisis in the Middle East. That's without any disruption in the flow of oil. Now, what if we have a serious disruption in the flow of oil? 15% of our oil comes from Venezuela. What if Venezuela said, we're not going to ship you any oil tomorrow?
Well, let me ask you, because I know someone, and I want to get back to this fuel and the fact that it's been around so long, but you're talking about prices right now, and a lot of people are sitting there at home right now saying, well, we're paying $3 a gallon, and oil companies are getting record profits, and we've seen the Attorney General come in, and they've charged some people and worked out some fines for price gouging. Do you think price gouging is an issue on a national level, a major issue? Do you think we're really getting gouged?
Oh, I think that prices are going to continue to fluctuate just on rumors of a storm or rumors of something happening in the Middle East. I don't think it is fair, and I think that you know, attorney generals all across this country need to continue to keep the pressure on, to keep prices where they need to be, to make sure people are not being gouged. But I think the long-term solution of this, Neil, is to put our destiny in our own hands.
If this technology's been around since World War II, South Africa's using it. Let me just read you an editorial. This editorial was in the Glasgow Daily Times, and it says, talking about the president wanting to has a target date of 2025 for America to be more dependent on American-made ethanol and oil. But it says, on that note, U.S. officials are closely watching the progress of Brazil, which can produce ethanol from sugarcane at about $1 a gallon. And that accounts for about 20% of Brazil's transport fuel market. Goes on to say, in the 1980s, an ethanol-producing facility was built in South Point, Ohio, just across the river from Kentucky. Although millions were spent, the plant's life was shockingly short, despite Ohio being the third largest user of ethanol and the sixth largest producer of corn, which was used in the process. This is an editorial. It says, it's baffling to us how the U.S. was the front runner of this money-saving, environment-friendly technology in the 1980s, but is now keeping a close eye on Brazil as it boosts its economy. Talks about a small but growing percentage of American-made vehicles are manufactured to run on U.S. version of ethanol called EB85, which is 85% ethanol, 15% gasoline. However, most don't even know their cars can run on the fuel, and it is only offered at 610 filling stations nationwide. If this has been around so long, and we were the leader in the 1980s, why are we so far behind now?
I think what happened, if you remember in '73, the early '70s, we had the oil embargo, and these technologies really started moving forward because the public started to see from not only prices, but also started to see from a national security standpoint as well, that if you know, the flow of oil is shut off, it really has a crippling effect on this country. So what happened was when these technologies started moving forward, guess what? OPEC stepped forward and drove down the price of oil and again kind of put this worry in the back of everybody's mind. But the difference today, Neil, than then is that, again, is we are competing as a country for the same barrel of oil with China, with India, other developing countries in a way we never have. The consumption is going up in those countries every day, as well as this country. And we have a different scenario now than we did then. Prices went back at the pump to where people got comfortable again, and everybody kind of forgot about these technologies. Now, the difference that I'm talking about is not only ethanol here or biodiesels. We're talking about when you make ethanol just using the kernel of the corn. Well, anything that produces biomass, you can produce this very fuel that I'm talking about here. We're not talking about just the kernel of the corn. We're talking about the corn cob, the corn stalk, the soybean vines, the livestock waste, which is a major issue out there with runoff into the creeks that need to be taken, that livestock waste, and making this very high productive fuel from it. Sawdust piles, all of those things that produce biomass, we can make this fuel. That's the reason, Neil, House Bill 299 did not have one no vote in the Kentucky House of Representatives or the Kentucky Senate. There was not one no vote against that bill. And the reason for that was that the environmental community, along with the industrial community, along with the agricultural farming community, came together and said, look, we can make this high-quality fuel while reducing our dependence on foreign oil and doing it at near zero emissions. Now, why are we not doing that? That's what 299 is all about. That's the reason these other states are starting to step up now and say, hey, we can change our economy and our state if we move forward. Think about, Neil, what this would do for our country. If we had a policy like this in our country to say, hey, we're going to reduce our dependence on foreign oil, we're going to use our own natural resources, we're going to use our own technologies to produce this fuel. Think about what that would do for our economy. It would drive down our national deficit. It would stabilize energy costs, not only for heating and cooling your homes if you use natural gas, but it would also stabilize prices at the pump. And it would also leave that $1 billion a day that we're leaving this country to buy this foreign oil. It'd be used here to develop these technologies and put back into our people and control our own destinies. So I think it's pretty simple, but it's going to take the will of the people. It's going to take a strong will from the people to say, we demand this, we want this to happen. We're tired of seeing fluctuating prices. We're tired of prices at the pump being controlled by other people. We want to control our own destiny.
Will this fuel work? Could I take this, if I had 5 gallons of this, and put it in my car outside and drive it, or do you have to?
I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I'll be the first to say that. You know, this technology can be changed just like you make different octanes of gas, just as you make higher qualities of fuel. This technology can be changed to do that. When you talk about an ethanol plant, you could actually take the Fischer-Tropsch technology and hook it with the ethanol plant and help produce the energy to run the ethanol plant, which would drive down the cost of producing ethanol. So what I'm saying is that, Neil, if we had a national policy like this, not only could we stabilize price at the pump, not only could we drive down the budget deficit in this country, not only could we stabilize the economy, but I think we could basically have another industrial revolution in this country.
Well, you mentioned industrial revolution because, and we saw it with the light bulb.
That's right.
When Thomas Edison created electricity and the light bulb, they were using gas light bulbs, and there was a whole transformation there that
right.
Wasn't well received early on. Well, we all know that the oil industry is very powerful. A lot of money is pumped into state and federal campaigns through their lobbyists. So how do you create this revolution, this transformation, when all of that money is being pumped in to elected officials' campaigns?
Again, it's going to take strong will of the people. And people are being educated every day right now, Neil, when they pull into the gas pump. And people are going to demand, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm tired of OPEC being able to drive prices up and drive prices down. I want a stable energy cost. So I think it's going to take the strong will of people to step forward. Neil, the other thing about an industrial revolution, can you imagine the manufacturing plants that would be built to produce the pieces and the parts to build these plants and retrofit other plants throughout this country? Can you imagine the construction workers that would go to work to build these plants all over this country? And then the effect that would have on being able to control our own destiny in this country because we control our own destiny with energy.
Do we need another Manhattan Project this time for fuel?
We in this country react well to crisis. You can't react to crisis in the energy business. It takes time to build plants. It takes time to go out and, this bill also talks about clean coal technology and how we can use our resources wiser and cleaner than we ever have to produce the energy that's going to be needed for the future. It's expected just in the United States, as I said just a little bit ago, the demand for electricity is going to double just in the United States in the next 25 years. The demand for fuel, transportation fuels are going to continue to go up as more cars are being made. And we got to look at how we can make those fuels out of our resources. And when you've got the agriculture community, I gave this very speech at the Farm Bureau Convention in Louisville, Kentucky at their breakfast. There was probably 500 people there. And I stood up without any notes and I said, it's foolish that we have put ourselves in the shape we're in with our dependence on foreign oil when we could be using and making our own transportation fuels with our own technologies here in this country and control our own destiny, not only from an economic standpoint of what it would do for the farming community, what it would do for the mining community and all those vendors that serve those two industries, but also what it would do for people when they pull into the pump. It would stabilize energy costs. When a barrel of oil is over $40 a barrel, these technologies are economically feasible. So prices now today are in the 70s, I assume. And Neil, and if something happens in the Middle East, or if we have Iran that would get involved in, or some other producer of oil get involved in some kind of conflict, or we have another storm, those prices could go to $100 a barrel. And as I said, there's nothing that has more of a major impact on our economy than the price of fuel and the price of energy.
Besides the savings at the pump, let's look specifically at Eastern Kentucky now, because we are talking about coal to liquid fuel.
Yes.
What do you see the impact of this type of technology having on Eastern Kentucky's economy?
I think it could have a major impact. Coal is going to continue to be mined to produce electricity, and we're working to find better clean coal technologies.
What about those people that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but somebody's sitting out there saying, well, we've only got 25 years of coal left?
Well, if you'll look at the new geological studies that we've had done, it'll show that we've got a lot more than
about
that.
150?
Yeah, we've got, and if you look at just Kentucky, and then you look at the rest of the country, the amount of coal, oil shale, and biomass that we have in this country rivals the amount of oil there is worldwide. There's projected 3 trillion barrels of oil left in the world. There is more fuel that could be produced just in the United States from coal, oil shale, and biomass than there is oil worldwide. So really what we are, we're the Saudi Arabia of the world just here in the United States. And with Kentucky having those resources, we can use those resources smarter, we can use them cleaner, and we can produce these fuels while still producing the electricity we need for this country as well. It would stabilize the mining industry, in my opinion, and it would keep people working with good paying jobs that have good benefits, that have good insurance. It would keep those vendors who supply those industries as well. And I think it would give Kentucky really the ability, with the amount of farming community we have in this state as well, the ability to truly be the national leaders and reap from the economic benefits of that for generations to come.
Rocky, we have just a couple of minutes left, so I want to ask you a couple of quick questions here. You were recently elected Vice Chair of the Southern Legislative Conference Energy and Environment Committee. Lawmakers from 16 states met in Kentucky.
Yes.
So these are the type of things that you all are talking about. You're not in this alone. You've got a group of states together.
Right. This was the very presentation I gave at the Energy and Environment Committee of the Southern Legislative Conference, and it was to tell these different states to go back and pass legislation similar to House Bill 299, and let's work together as a southern region to move these technologies forward, to move this policy forward. This is a policy that needs to be implemented at the national level to really take the effect I want to see it take. Mm-hmm. You know, it also, Neil, if you look at the rest of it, we talk about other forms of energy as well. To really truly be energy independent, and that's what I think is an achievable goal for this country, is for us to be energy independent by using our own natural resources in this country to produce our own energy. That's the goal I want to see, is energy independence. I think that we can reach that, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to take the national will of the people of this country. It is going to take everything we've got. It's going to take solar, wind, hydro, all of those forms of energy that we can talk about, along with our resources to produce electricity, but also to produce these fuels. But we can achieve that. Now, we're not talking about doing away with using oil. We're going to continue to use oil, but we're going to be able to not have to, yes, we're not going to have to be importing 62% of it from some countries that really don't like us very well. So what I'd like to see us do is to reduce that 62% down to the percentage of where we can get our oil that is oil produced in this country, and also oil that comes from friendly countries that we can depend on.
You've asked the governor to make the Kentucky Office of Energy Policy, turn that into a cabinet position. Any response yet?
I have not had a response as of today when we went on this program. But I do think that the Office of Energy Policy should be elevated to a cabinet level position to show everyone throughout this country that we're serious about this issue, that we want to be the national leaders in bringing forth the new clean coal technology, bringing forth the technologies to produce our own fuels, that we want to take advantage of the federal energy bill that was passed that has billions of dollars in there for research, for development, for demonstrating these technologies and then taking them to commercial scale. That's the reason the Energy Cabinet needs to be a cabinet-level agency, and I would hope that the governor would look seriously at this, because let me tell you what, it's a serious issue that's on everybody's mind every day.
Got to ask you quickly your reaction to the judge's ruling last week that Governor Fletcher cannot be prosecuted while he's still in office. Will Democrats seek to impeach him?
Well, I think it's too early to tell about that, but what the judge did do, to be very honest with you, is he rejected dismissing the charges. He only said that he could not be prosecuted while he was in office or unless he was impeached. As a leadership team, we have not had a discussion about moving forward with any impeachment proceedings. There's been no papers filed at this point. We have said that this is a judicial matter that should take its place in the court system. Now, with the judge's ruling, of course, there will be some discussion, but to this point, we have not had a serious discussion about any impeachment proceedings. But I think it's important. I read an article that one side said it was good for the governor, and another side said it was good for this side. Well, the real ruling basically was not a rejection of any charges against the governor. It just said that he couldn't be prosecuted while he was in office.
We had a recent poll. This isn't scientific, but an online poll, and the question was, should Governor Fletcher seek a second term in office? 14.5% said yes, 84.1% said no, and less than 2% said undecided. You think the governor should resign?
I don't think the governor should resign. He's going to have to make a choice, though, of whether he wants to run for re-election. That will be his choice of whether he moves forward with seeking re-election. He'll have to make that choice of whether he does that. There's also turmoil, as you know, within the Republican Party of Trey Grayson, the Secretary of State. Others have come forward and made comments that they're going to have a primary. And, I think that if the governor makes the decision to run in 2007 in a primary, it looks like there's going to be a primary, and the people will decide on whether he should be reelected to another term. So that's the good thing about the process we have. People have an opportunity to voice their opinion.
Speaking of the process, I got 20 seconds. Will Rocky Adkins run for governor?
I can tell you this. My main focus right now is to be the best majority floor leader I know how to be, and to try my best through these next few months to add to our majority in the House of Representatives. That's what the Democratic members in the House asked me to do. Now, do you close doors and say, no, well, you never close doors in anything you're in. When I played basketball at Morehead State University, you left doors open to other opportunities. Those may come along, but I don't go to bed every night or get up every morning thinking about that. My main focus right now is trying to add to our Democratic majority in the House of Representatives and be the best floor leader that you can be. I think if you do a good job at whatever you're doing, it could lead to other avenues or other opportunities. If that happens, that'll be fine, but my main focus right now is the job I have as Majority Leader of the Kentucky House of Representatives.
Rocky Adkins, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Don't be so. Let's make it a little bit shorter next time when we have you back.
I appreciate that. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us as well. We'll see you next week for another edition of Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition. Have a good night.
Join us for Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition, Mondays at 7 p.m. on WYMT. Sponsored in part by the First National Bank of Jackson, member FDIC. and Hazard Mayor Bill Gorman and the city commissioners. Come home to the mountains.